All right, traders, let's get started with today's market recap. This is Christian from Hertz, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, January 25th. Theme of the day, I would say, buy the dip alive. Very different market action today than what we saw for a lot of 2022. A lot of days, and I feel like this is a little bit of deja vu all over again, because I think I said this about a week ago, where we started the day down, and we started to go a little bit further south for the day, and buyers kind of stepped in. Again, that wasn't the case. A lot of times in 2022, the market would, for whatever reason, when there was bad news on the tape, or just when we started the day down, we would continue to go in that direction, which was not healthy to see. A lot of times that entices investors to get back involved, when they've got, when the markets are down, and they kind of feel that that's a little bit of a buying opportunity. But that was pretty absent in 2022. So that's kind of the theme of the day. There's also some other themes that definitely can talk about in terms of some of the earnings reports, because really that is what is center stage, at least so far this week. We're going to get some economic reports out later this week, which are going to be, are going to have some interest, right? Just so that you're aware that these are on your radar for tomorrow. We're going to get GDP, but again, GDP is a lagging indicator. Remember, stock prices, for instance, are more of a leading indicator. So I never really look at GDP, but maybe something interesting will come about in personal consumption, durable goods tomorrow. And then also what I think is going to be the most important thing in terms of economic data for the week will be the PCE deflator, which we'll get on Friday, which is another gauge of inflation. Excuse me 1 minute. All right, sorry about that. Yes, so PCE deflator will be something to watch, as well as the expectations for inflation. So again, that comes on Friday, and of course, more earnings reports to come out. So one of the things that I talked about, and make sure that you are signed up for this. I talked about this. I sent this out last night after the Microsoft move or reversal to the downside. I was just talking about how Microsoft just really hasn't been one of those names that has been, an outperformer. It's been an underperformer for the last year. So I didn't think it would have that much impact. I mean, it's going to have, of course, when they talk about, different segments of their business and their cloud and so forth, that is going to have an effect on other cloud companies. But, in terms of the overall market, it shouldn't have that, I thought, my opinion was, it shouldn't have that much impact. And it could create a little bit of a buy the opportunity if the whole market sold off. And that's kind of what we got for the day. Again, please make sure that you're on this report. You can see where, what I'm doing is just kind of giving you names that are freshly breaking out of multiple value areas, again, using volume at price. All right. But, so I wrote about that last night, and, that's kind of how today unfolded a little bit. By the way, look at Las Vegas Sands, right? Another company, even though their earnings were not great, again, you have to be looking forward, right, into what their company's business prospects are going forward. So S&P, where did we, so, this was the turnaround right around about an hour into the session. We made this really nice move. Where does this leave us at this point? It does get us right back to what I referred to earlier on Twitter as the scene of the crime. We were back up to the top of value. So remember, we went a little bit too far, I think, on Monday. We took out that upside VPOC. Yesterday, we kind of hung around and chopped around. And then in the overnight session, we moved lower, obviously, on Microsoft. So, but yes, the dip was bought. What I thought was particularly interesting, some areas that really kind of stood out to me was what's going on in some of these credit cards / financing type companies. Look at Capital One, moved up almost 9% for the session. Look at the volume, right? Does that seem like a change in tone to you? And Capital One's not the only one who's doing this. Look at what happened, it's because sometimes these things are kind of a one-off, but look at Discovery Financial Services, right? 102 to 114. Another one that I noticed, again, not a name that I trade, frequently. In fact, for a long time, I haven't traded this name, but look at Ally Financial, right? Also moving up to the 200-day moving average. So Visa reports tomorrow. I think that's going to be a very interesting report. I did put on, again, this was involved with that glitch yesterday, but you could see it's, moving on the daily chart. You kind of have to forget about that, which is interesting because it took out that VPOC all the way up there. But that looks like a pretty interesting chart. If they have some good things to say tomorrow, I think that Visa could be very compelling here. If you want to look at this on the weekly chart as well, just to see what this looks like, it also does not look bad. It's above value. Again, you have to kind of ignore that crazy candle that happened from yesterday, but it's above that trend line. It's above the value area. So they just have to deliver something. And I think it could be very interesting for Visa. Now, again, Visa's business is a little bit different than say a Capital One. They get a lot of their business from from merchants, and fees on types of things. So they've got more business, different business lines. So I think that's very interesting as well. And then I would also kind of look at some of these things like a Square, which, I was watching today, kind of came back to flat today. I've been trying to trade this one here and there. I traded it the other day. It got a downgrade today, but it handled it pretty well. It shook it off. So that'll be interesting. That'll be something interesting to watch. I still think it's possible that it could gravitate up there towards that 86 VPOC. But again, this space is really interesting. And I think, possibly telling you something different, about the consumer, so in any event, again, there's, listen, I don't want to get into that conversation about if the consumer is doing bad or if they're maxed out on credit and so forth. I think that there's opportunities in these companies, given I think the price action is you don't need to look at all those other things. You could just respect the price action and see what's going on. That's my take anyway on what's going on there. All right. So a couple other areas of the market too. The energy space, right? Which my thought on in the beginning of the day was we might see a move back. Value has been very quiet in 2023. Now, there's been parts of value that have done pretty well, but you can see how much it's been outperforming year to date. Growth is up almost 8%. Versus value 1.9%. I think that I'll have to check to see if that number is right, but that's what I have in my spreadsheet. So look at oil services today. They were up 3% from the open. So very strong. Metals and mining, retail, which we continue to see pockets of strength in retail and consumer discretionary. Remember about a month ago, I tweeted out how well consumer discretionary is doing when you strip out Amazon and Tesla, right? That's the RCD ETF, right? Which is, sorry, not stripping them out, but equally weighting, right? Look at this. Look at what this ETF is doing, right? Super, super strong. Again, that's consumer discretionary equally weighted. Because in the XLY ETF, the market cap weighted one, look at the difference in what these things look like. And I know these things have kind of caught up a little bit, but here's consumer discretionary market cap weighted. And the reason why it's such an underperformer is because Amazon and Tesla make up about 30% of this ETF. All right. So big difference. Let me go back to OIH because I think this is really interesting. The two top holdings in OIH, Schlumberger, which reported earnings about a week ago, had really good numbers. Again, it's kind of looks a little funky with that candle from yesterday, but here's the move, and we saw a big call spread. So it's still cheaper than when that big call spread and put sale went up. Yeah, I think that was it Friday of last week. But in any event, it looks pretty good. Halliburton too, really kind of a neat chart in terms of coming in and back testing support. If I can get this to come up, Thinkorswim is a little bit slow right now, but nice movement here, right? And again, what's nice about this is exactly where the trade's not going to work, right? If it breaks into the value area below 38.70, I would abandon the trade, further the 50-day moving average, which also lines up. But it's got a chance to kind of bounce in here. Other plays that were really strong in energy, NOV looks like it's breaking out. CHX is another one too that's in the OIH ETF. There's more and more companies are still reporting, even though it's 15 minutes after 5 o'clock. So just a lot of earnings, a lot of names that are reporting earnings. The steel names were super strong today. I mean, this has been a group that's been strong. STLD, which reported after the close, I think they're down. They were down a little bit, but maybe not. But this has been and one of the leaders of this group, continues to be right around 52-week highs. And what was impressive today was FCX. I would watch for continuation in this tomorrow. This is a name that we got long in the TTG trend portfolio a couple months ago and has acted really well. If it can maintain above this virgin point of control, I would say super strong. Right. The name that I played, which I bought yesterday, which I was watching for a while because it, again, had really strong earnings, come in and digested here a little bit. And look at this thing resolve, nice bounce off the 20-day moving average. That's CMC. I would also keep, if you like this group, I would also keep an eye on Alcoa too, which has been acting well and had an inside day today. All right. So really, really nice strength. Last group I think I want to talk about is the semis. I was kind of concerned about them. I got stopped out in a trade and that's how it's going to work sometimes. I was long AMD. It hit my stop in this morning. I took it off. It's, in my opinion, the best way to deal with, stops is that when they go off, you don't question them. You take the trade off. But I think that this group, if it can kind of hang in here, and if it can manage to get above that virgin point of control, I think is really interesting. Now, a couple names had earnings after the close. I think Lam Research is down a little bit, but it looks like it's lost the move today, and ASML, which I know, international companies, they don't get as much attention, even though this is an ADR, but this is a really nice looking chart, I think, in ASML, right? It's kind of came in, back tested the top of value and now looks super strong. So again, I actually prefer the components in XSD. I've been talking about this quite frequently. This is the equally weighted ETF. And again, it just looks a bit different through those names. Also, I said this would be the last group, but I've talked about the financing companies, talked about the semiconductors, how can you not talk about these insurance companies as well, right? This is something that I talked about in last night's Substack report. Progressive, again, I don't know what's the story with Thinkorswim, why it's so slow, but look at the move. I mean, very similar to what Travelers did the day before. And Travelers kind of came in a little bit, so maybe providing a little bit of a buying opportunity. I like Aflac, and I bought that today. Really nice move there. A couple consumer discretionary companies that are also looking pretty interesting. Again, there's a lot to talk about, guys. But some consumer discretionary companies that also look pretty good. Starbucks has just done wonderfully. It's going to have earnings, unfortunately, but I really like, the digestion that Starbucks is doing, and to me, showing relative strength. And another name too that I've got on the list is Monster Beverage. Right. And I did take this trade today. I was looking at it. I gave it a try back here and it didn't work. I actually put this on Twitter saying how I lost a little bit of money on this. Not much, because I stopped myself out pretty quickly. But I'm always okay with giving it another try. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 times before a name is ready to go. Right. You got to be patient with these things. right? And, it helps to kind of leg into these things, smaller size when a name goes back and forth like that, right? So I think very, very interesting. So again, what I would be focused on for tomorrow is watching to see what the S&P does, right around this top of value, right? Again, that's 40, 30, 450, right? If we can overcome that, I would think that would be pretty decent. And further to kind of challenge this high point for the week, which was the Virgin point of control takeout. Guys, that's it. I'll have many more setups and trades that we went through today and talked about. So if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, get involved. Go to tribecatradegroup.com and you could receive half off your first month if you're a new member. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.